Toys R Us was closing. For decades it stood as a beacon of joy for children everywhere. Its colorful aisles and towering shelves were legendary. Now those aisles were emptying. The bright lights were dimming. The laughter was fading. This was not just a store closing, it felt like a piece of childhood itself was disappearing. The iconic giraffe, Jeffrey, once a symbol of endless fun, now seemed to represent a $6 billion retail tragedy. The giant of the toy world had fallen, and its collapse was a stark reminder of the brutal realities of modern commerce. The final months were a painful spectacle. Store closing signs became a common sight. Deep discounts drew crowds, but it was a somber affair. Parents who once eagerly shopped for the latest toys now scavenged for bargains. The vibrant atmosphere that defined Toys R Us was gone. The kingdom of toys was crumbling before our very eyes. The story of Toys R Us began with a different dream. Charles Lazarus, a young entrepreneur, saw an opportunity in post-World War II America. The baby boom was underway. Families were growing. In 1948, he opened Children's Bargain Town in Washington, D.C. It was a baby furniture store. Lazarus was just 25 years old. He listened to his customers. He noticed that parents who bought furniture often asked for toys. He realized that toys broke, but babies kept coming. This simple observation would spark a revolution in retail. Lazarus soon shifted his focus. If baby furniture was a one-time purchase, toys were a repeat business. He believed he could sell toys like groceries in a supermarket. He envisioned large stores with a vast selection and low prices. This was a radical idea at a time when toys were mostly sold in department stores or small specialty shops. In 1957, he opened the first dedicated toy supermarket. He named it Toys R Us, with the iconic backward R. This quirky branding would become instantly recognizable. The 1970s and 1980s were a period of explosive growth. Toys R Us perfected the big box retail model for toys. Its stores were huge warehouses of fun. Aisles were stacked high with every imaginable toy, from board games and dolls to bikes and video games. The company went public in 1978, fueling further expansion. By the early 1990s, Toys R Us was a global empire. It had stores across the United States and was expanding internationally. Charles Lazarus's vision had transformed toy selling. Visiting a Toys R Us store was an event. It was an immersive experience designed to captivate children. The bright primary colors, the sheer scale of the stores, and the endless rows of toys created a sense of awe. Kids would run down the aisles, eyes wide with excitement. They could touch the boxes, imagine the play, and dream of what they might take home. The stores were designed to be a child's paradise, a place where their fantasies could come to life. Jeffrey the giraffe, the company's lovable mascot, played a huge role in its cultural impact. Introduced in 1969, Jeffrey became synonymous with Toys R Us. The catchy jingle, "I don't want to grow up, I'm a Toys R Us kid," became an anthem for generations. It perfectly captured the spirit of childhood and the joy associated with the brand. Toys R Us was central to countless family traditions. It was the go-to destination for birthday presents and holiday shopping. The annual Christmas toy catalog was eagerly awaited. Children would spend hours circling their favorite items. These experiences created lasting memories. The store was a place where parents could connect with their children over the shared joy of play. The dominance of Toys R Us began to face serious challenges in the 1990s. Large discount retailers like Walmart and Target started expanding their toy sections. These companies operated on a different business model. They used toys as loss leaders. This meant they sold popular toys at very low prices, sometimes even at a loss. Their goal was not to make a profit on toys. Instead, they wanted to attract shoppers into their stores. Once customers were inside, they would likely buy other more profitable items like groceries or clothing. This strategy put immense pressure on prices of Toys R Us. Toys R Us found it difficult to compete on price alone against these retail behemoths. Its entire business model revolved around selling toys. It could not afford to sell them at a loss. The company tried to emphasize its wider selection and specialized knowledge. However, many consumers were drawn by the convenience and low prices offered by Walmart and Target. The toy aisles in these discount stores became increasingly popular. As the new millennium dawned, another formidable competitor emerged: Amazon. The rise of e-commerce presented a new and disruptive threat. Toys R Us was slow to recognize the significance of this shift. Section 5. The Weight of Debt, Private Equity's High-Stakes Gamble. In 2005, Toys R Us faced a pivotal moment. The company, struggling with competition and a changing retail landscape, was taken private. A consortium of private equity firms, Kohlberg Kravis Roberts, Bain Capital, and Vornado Realty Trust, acquired Toys R Us for $6.6 billion. This was a leveraged buyout. This means a significant portion of the purchase price was financed by borrowing money. The debt was then placed onto Toys R Us itself. The leveraged buyout saddled Toys R Us with an enormous financial burden. The company's debt load soared to over $5 billion. Suddenly, a large portion of its earnings had to be diverted to service this debt. This meant making huge annual interest payments. These payments drained cash that could have been used for vital investments. The company needed to modernize its stores. It needed to build a robust e-commerce platform. It needed to innovate and adapt to changing consumer preferences. But the crushing debt severely limited its ability to do any of these things effectively. The private equity owners aimed to streamline operations, cut costs, and prepare the company for an initial public offering within a few years. However, the timing was not ideal. Section 6. Stormy Seas, Recession, Rivals, and Digital Disruption. The global financial crisis of 2008 delivered another heavy blow to Toys R Us. As economies around the world reeled, consumer spending tightened significantly. Families cut back on non-essential purchases. Toys, often considered discretionary items, were among the first things to be affected. Parents became more budget-conscious. They hunted for bargains. This environment further favored discount retailers like Walmart and Target, who were already undercutting Toys R Us on price. The recession exacerbated the company's existing vulnerabilities, making a tough situation even worse. Sales at Toys R Us stagnated and then began to decline. The company's large, expensive-to-maintain big-box stores became an increasing liability. Foot traffic dwindled. The magic that once filled the aisles seemed to be fading. In response to the economic pressure, the company tried to cut costs. But these measures often came at the expense of the customer experience. Section 7. The Final Bow, Bankruptcy, and the End of an Icon. After years of struggling with declining sales, massive debt, and fierce competition, the inevitable happened. In September 2017, Toys R Us filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection in the United States. The company hoped to restructure its debt and operations. It aimed to emerge as a leaner, more viable business. There was a glimmer of hope that the iconic brand could be saved. The plan was to close some underperforming stores and reinvest in the remaining ones. They also intended to improve the online shopping experience. However, the crucial holiday season of 2017 proved to be disastrous. Sales were far below expectations. Suppliers, already nervous about the company's financial health, began to tighten credit terms or demand cash up front. This created a severe liquidity crisis. Without a steady flow of new merchandise, the stores could not attract customers. The restructuring efforts faltered. The debt load was simply too heavy. The company could not generate enough cash to operate and service its obligations. In March 2018, the devastating announcement came. Toys R Us would liquidate all of its operations in the United States and the United Kingdom. More than 700 U.S. stores were shuttered. Approximately 33,000 American employees lost their jobs. Section 8. Echoes of Jeffrey comeback, whispers, and critical missteps. Even after the dramatic collapse, the Toys R Us brand retained a powerful hold on public imagination. In 2019, True Kids Brands, a new entity formed by former Toys R Us executives, acquired the company's intellectual property, including the rights to the name and Jeffrey the Giraffe. They announced plans to revive the brand. The initial strategy involved opening a small number of new, smaller format stores. These stores were designed to be more interactive and experiential. 2 such stores opened in late 2019 in New Jersey and Texas, offering a glimmer of hope for a comeback. However, this initial revival attempt was short-lived. The COVID-19 pandemic hit in early 2020, severely impacting retail operations worldwide. The 2 new stores were forced to close permanently in early 2021. Despite this setback, True Kids Brands did not give up. They shifted their strategy towards partnerships. In 2021, a significant move was announced. Toys R Us would return to the United States through a collaboration with Macy's. This involved opening shop-in-shops dedicated Toys R Us sections within hundreds of Macy's department stores nationwide. Reflecting on the downfall, several fundamental reasons stand out. Section 9. Lessons from a Fallen Giant, The Legacy of Toys R Us. The rise and fall of Toys R Us is more than just a business case study. It is a profound cautionary tale for the entire retail industry. It serves as a stark warning, particularly for legacy retailers with large physical store footprints. The story highlights the relentless pace of change in the modern economy. What worked yesterday may not work tomorrow. No company, no matter how iconic or dominant, is immune to disruption. The toy giant's demise underscores the brutal consequences of failing to anticipate and adapt to these shifts. One of the most critical lessons is the absolute necessity of adapting to evolving consumer behavior and technological advancements. Toys R Us was slow to embrace e-commerce. It underestimated the convenience and appeal of online shopping. It failed to integrate its physical stores with a compelling digital experience. In today's world, businesses must be agile and forward-thinking. They must constantly innovate and meet customers where they are. This means investing in technology, understanding data, and being willing to transform business models.